everyone to the Penny Stamps Distinguished Speaker Series. My name is Christina Hamilton, the series director, and today we present artist, writer, organizer, and aficionado of intervention, Angela Washko. A big thank you to our partners for their support today, the Institute of the Humanities, or for the Humanities, and ESCAPE, which is the new Center for Ethics, Society, and Computing, which just launched at the University of Michigan last month. So great to have ESCAPE with us immediately upon their arrival. ESCAPE is invested in the social, cultural, and political dimensions of digital technologies, formed to intercede in structures of power and inequality. It is dedicated to intervening when digital media and computing technologies reproduce inequality, exclusion, corruption, deception, racism, or sexism. So in other words, we need them. Very important. ESCAPE is putting on a number of events, so you should check that out. They have one coming up at the end of next week. Sarah Roberts will be here next Friday, a week from Friday, that is, at 2 p.m. at the Michigan League. She hails from UCLA and researches information work and workers, and she's a leading global authority on commercial content moderation, which is a term that she coined, which describes the work of those responsible for making sure media content posted to commercial websites fits legal and ethical guidelines. So you can check that out and check out ESCAPE. Next week, join us here again, Thursday, for artists, designers Amanda Williams and Andres Hernandez. We are going to have a Q&A today, our regular style Q&A, not in here, but actually out the doors and down the hallway, you'll find the screening room. So you can join us directly following the talk here in the screening room and meet Angela with your questions. Please do remember to silence your cell phones. And now for a proper introduction, we have the director of ESCAPE, Center for Ethics, Society, and Computing. He's also the Marshall McLuhan Collegiate Professor of Information, Communication, and Media, and an affiliated faculty member at the Stamps School. So please welcome Christian Sandvig.
Thank you very much. It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce our guest, Angela Washko, to you. Angela is an emerging star and a powerful voice in digital media art. She's an award-winning artist, she's an educator, a writer, a facilitator who has dedicated her professional life to the creation of new forums for the discussions of feminism in venues that are the most hostile toward it. She was born in Reading, Pennsylvania. She received the BFA in painting, drawing, and sculpture from Temple University, then the MFA in visual art from the University of California, San Diego, and she's currently assistant professor of art at Carnegie Mellon University. I hope to convince you without reading her entire CV that we are exceptionally lucky to hear from her today. Her work has been exhibited nationally and internationally, Helsinki, Milan, Los Angeles, Shenzhen, and other venues. Her practice has been highlighted in The New Yorker, the Time magazine, The Guardian, the New York Times, Art in America. It's a long list, especially for someone of her seniority. She's also a writer and has published a series of really captivatingly disturbing interviews and essays that I would recommend to you about feminism, sexuality, and queer theory. But let's talk a little bit about the art. When Johanna Fateman was writing an art forum and she identified Angela Washko, her solo show, as one of the 10 best shows of 2018, she wrote that this work was in the radical tradition of digital art pioneer Lynn Hirschman Leeson. And to my mind, the comparison with Hirschman is a great compliment, but also a natural fit. Angela Washko is interested in pushing the boundaries of what can be done with the medium, with digital media, with art, with games, but she's also interested in radical interventions. I personally came to Angela Washko's work because I'm a gamer and I teach a course about video games here at the University of Michigan. To convey to you what her work has meant to me, I wanted to tell you a brief anecdote about that course. As an exercise in the course to help communicate to the students what some of these online environments are like, especially if the students are non-gamers, For many years in the class, I do a little exercise, and I just join an online game using a computer in the classroom. So I join an online game, I turn on the audio, and we listen. Now, Angela is known for her work in World of Warcraft, but I have used Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto Online, and other games. Nonetheless, I find that many of these games produce effectively the same experience if you turn it on and just listen. All you have to do is turn on the audio and wait. I know that there are gamers in the audience, and I think you know what happens next. Yeah. I mean, it's reliable. It only takes a couple of minutes before there's something horrific. And it could be, it's disturbing, offensive, it could be racist, it could be sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic. It really, think of something that bothers you, and it's likely to come up if you wait long enough. I once turned on Grand Theft Auto Online, and almost immediately, everyone in the classroom heard what sounded like a 9-year-old just screaming the N-word. I play these games myself, often with a kind of horrified fascination, or sometimes racked with guilt. And recently, a fellow gamer made an observation to me about my posse in Grand Theft Auto Online. She said, I bet your clan is mostly made up of women. And I said, I never thought about that. How do you know? So she said, number one, they all have names like Tough Bitch and Panda Lady. But number two, and more importantly, because they never speak. And I thought, you know, I'm a gamer, I've done online gaming for years, I know that women in online games often don't speak, and I know why. It's a measure of protection, a way to protect themselves from abuse online. It's rational, so I knew that. But somehow putting it that way really struck me, right? I mean, I think they're all women because they never speak. Just that particular phrase struck me. I'm telling it to you now because I think that's what I admire most about Angela's career and her work, and that's when faced with this kind of toxic, hostile, horrible environment, her impulse is to engage. It's to engage, and that's remarkable, and I would call that commitment, I would call it bravery, and I admire it. So please join me in welcoming Angela Washko.
Oh my gosh, whew. I have to move this way and set a timer so that I don't talk too long, but wow, what an introduction. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm a research-based artist making video games now. That's kind of a new thing, but otherwise making writing, video art, performances, and interventions, like mentioned, often within video game and multi-user online environments. Oh yeah, I'll get to that later. But today I'm going to talk about a couple of projects. I can't see any of you, so like I hear a lot of laughter, and that's really great. But I can't see you at all, so you could be doing just about anything. So I'm going to talk about a couple of projects that I think are pretty representative of my process and politics the last few years. And then I'll introduce what I'm working on right now at the very end, which I think you'll see as a pretty big departure for me in my practice. So, World of Warcraft. I started playing the massively multiplayer role-playing video game World of Warcraft in 2006. After years of playing in competitive guilds and feeling really frustrated, just as was sort of talked about earlier, with how my social experience differed from men I regularly played with. In 2012, I decided that instead of leaving the game completely, that I would actually try to do something about it. I'd become tired of being told to get back in the kitchen and make male players sandwiches. And I had become incredibly uncomfortable with the number of male players aggressively soliciting me for sexual favors as soon as they realized that I identified as a woman. Changing the harassment reporting protocols and lack of accountability built into the community guidelines designed by Blizzard seemed like an insurmountable task as an individual artist like myself. However, I thought I could use my background in performance art, grassroots activism, and collective organizing to directly talk to players about why the community had become so homophobic, misogynistic, and racist in its public communication channels, at least on all the servers that I played on. So, from 2012 to 2016, I created what I call performative interventions inside World of Warcraft. So instead of killing enemies and getting really badass equipment like I had for 6 years prior to its founding, as the Council on Gender Sensitivity and Behavioral Awareness in World of Warcraft, I started traveling to highly populated virtual towns in the game to discuss the ways in which women were treated in the game space with other players. WoW has had a player base that, as was mentioned, is pretty notorious for being hostile toward women, members of the queer community, and players of color. So in a session with the council, players came together in this kind of virtual public space to discuss inclusivity, entitlement, who gets to ask questions about the community's actions, how players are held accountable for harassment, why women are treated so poorly in the space, why the politics of everyday life ended up so embedded in exchanges in this otherwise fantasy game landscape where you can be a panda or an orc or a troll or even a cow, feminism, and so much more. The project shifted in intention from initially I wanted to get all these players together to change the communal language in the space. And ultimately, I kind of changed my approach, feeling like there was a somewhat colonial impulse embedded in my initial strategy. So I shifted toward trying to create a presence and public visibility for the issues of exclusivity that marginalized players face in the space by meeting and talking about it regularly, like you're seeing here. In this case, literally in front of a campfire. But yeah, we were, as I started getting more players involved, we ended up just kind of taking up literal space and altering the game experience by making these underrepresented perspectives that were otherwise silenced within the community extremely visible. And we're using the say command, that's like the speech bubble coming up, which is kind of an outdated communication model in the game, and we're really intentionally doing that to kind of cloud players' vision with these perspectives and these conversations. The project over time gained a large following in game, and an intentional inclusive guild was created as a part of these discussions on the primary server I operated on. My biggest goal for the project was always that it could, create a prototype or a set of tactical guidelines for productive performative actions by others in World of Warcraft and other multi-user virtual environments. So like best case scenario, somebody sees this, steals the idea, and does it themselves or somewhere else, and I would be really, really happy about that. Although this work, I think of World of Warcraft itself as the primary context for the work, where the work takes place. It's often presented in art context as well. When I get the chance to do an installation in like an art museum or art gallery, I like to also play with kind of blowing up the physical the kind of environments of World of Warcraft and bringing them into physical space to kind of echo the feel of the game environment and make it human scale. I don't know how easy that is to see, but hopefully that makes sense. The project also lives on in the form of writing, which is a big part of my practice. So in the midst of working inside of World of Warcraft in that way, I started another project which was also focused on facilitating dialogue within niche internet communities that are not inclusive to women. Starting in 2014, I became interested in a figure named Roosh V. His writing and his ideologies started coming up during conversations with WoW players who identified themselves to me as men's rights activists or members of the manosphere. In case you're not familiar, Roosh V once identified as a professional pickup artist. Now he calls himself a lot of other things, but for our purposes, he's a professional pickup artist. He's been called the most infamous misogynist on the internet, and you probably know there's a lot of competition for that title, so I will say he has earned it. Rushdie spends his time traveling around the world teaching men how to perform in particular ways in order to have sex with as many women as possible across geographic, language, and cultural barriers as quickly as possible. He writes a series of seduction-centric travel guides called Bang, Day Bang, Bang Iceland, Bang Poland, Don't Bang Denmark, and so on. One of his community fans made this image, not me. He was also the founder of Return of Kings, a recently shut down but historically very active online alt-right blog with many writers devoted to discussing neo-masculinity, an ideological term coined by Rush to identify men who want to return to radically traditional values and would like to see women in the United States have their right to vote revoked, who would like to see rape become legal on private property, would like to see women banned from the workforce, and many other infuriatingly conservative things. After reading so much of his writing for his devoted community of followers, one thing really stuck out to me. In Rush's very detailed accounts of his sexual exploits, the perspectives of the women he's explicitly talking about in his books and blogs are never represented. So I had an idea that I would create a web and book project through which I had hoped to give the supposedly hundreds of women that Rushdie has had sexual exchanges with, using the extremely aggressive strategies outlined in his books, an opportunity to anonymously talk back about their experiences. After pursuing mainstream media distribution of my call for these women, it occurred to me that Rush knew about my project, as he wrote about it on his Twitter account. His awareness of the project really changed it for me. He became less of this abstract villain that was really easy to run a kind of public smear campaign on, and more of a complicated person and more of a subject. I decided that I should stop just mimicking the one-dimensional shock media tactics that his own community would use for different ideological purposes, and move toward investigating further into actually trying to understand the tactics within his teachings, his personal motivations, and the growing appeal that he and his practice held for his growing community of followers, many of whom we would now kind of identify as part of the alt-right. So I pursued getting Rushdie to do an interview with me via Skype. This took months of email negotiating. The video interview ended up being accidentally or unintentionally 2 hours long and was very exhausting. I'm going to play 2 excerpts from the interview to give you a sense of what it was like. There is some sexually explicit talk in this clip. If that makes you uncomfortable, I'm completely fine, or I completely understand if you want to step out. But there is a very mystifying conversation about women and orgasms. So just to prepare you for that. This is an interview that I called Banged, a Monopoly on Truth. And this is the cue for somebody to turn down the lights. Okay.
I'm a heterosexual, normal man without any alternative lifestyle leanings. I'm just an average guy. And I feel
But you wrote these books.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So can you just, for an audience that may not be familiar with the books that you've written, can you just describe a little bit about Bang, Day Bang, Bang, Iceland, Don't Bang Denmark, and so on? I love Denmark, by the way.
Each book is just basically trying to help men learn how to meet women and initiate sexual relationships, how to start a conversation with a woman, how to build attraction with a woman, how to get her into bed.
If you don't mind, I do want to read a section from Bang that maybe you could sort of respond to, because I think based on what you're saying, some of the things then in Bang are maybe a more extreme version of what you're practicing now.
You may be trying to play this out of context type of game where you quote
Oh,
something.
no, I'm sorry. I don't want to, you can tell me to stop if you want.
Let's see, because I know that's what people have done on me, is to pull a quote. And
I just want, well, I'll let you respond to it because I don't want you to, get upset or
Sure.
anything.
No, go ahead. Hey, if that's what I wrote, it's theirs.
This is just called, if you don't feel like a creep, you're not pushing hard enough.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I really like, this is a great start.
Okay.
And again,
Go ahead.
I'm not trying to exploit you, I'm just,
Word.
she's not going to invite you upstairs like in the movies. She's not going to tell you she wants to have sex with you. She's not going to grab your dick and put it in. You must always be making the first move and always be pushing. If you're scared, she'll think of you as a creep. That means you're on the right path. Remember that girls who like you are flattered that you want to have sex with them. So moving quickly is an indirect way of showing interest that can be helpful for new relationships. Get her to your place or hers the same night you meet her. Get her into the bedroom. Take off her clothes and keep going. If she resists, take a break and start over again. Break her down and bang her, and then take her out and bang her again. And then on page 90-something, pound away like a jackhammer until she gets tired and gives in. This isn't an elegant approach, but it works. Any human resistance can be broken down with enough pressure. I just feel like that's a little bit more extreme than what you were explaining earlier.
How did I not win the Nobel Prize?
Let's imagine that I do somehow find 20 women that have slept with you. What do you think these women might say about the seduction process and your sexual performance?
I would say that they would probably say that I approached them with good energy. I didn't scare them. I made them feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. I didn't come on really strong. But at the same time, I didn't come in with such a low energy that they weren't interested. Mm-hmm. I'm really good at keeping a conversation going, even if the girl is not giving me a lot back. I make everything feel natural, from how I touch and kiss, and I mean, it's rarely the point where a girl will have to stop me and say, no, I don't like it when you touch me there, because I can read them. I know, but based on how they act, how they talk, how they move, when they want me to do the next step. And after sex, I get lazy because now I already got most of what I wanted. So I just want to go to have the lowest possible expectations. So if I'm having a day where I don't want to try, so it's actually a blessing and a curse to be good in bed, but I'm not. So
you mentioned your orgasm is of primary importance, and that you don't go down on women.
Right.
That's true. Can I ask why?
We have to, because nature has deemed the male orgasm to be more important. If right now a magic cloud of gas surrounds the earth and infected girls and prevented them from ever having a female orgasm again, the human species would go on still. But if this cloud of gas only affected men and prevented the male orgasm, what would happen? The human species is done, is freaking done. Therefore, nature, not me, nature has declared that the male orgasm is essential to life, to life. But the female orgasm is like a cherry on top. You know, if she gets it, hey, that's great, yummy. But if not, it doesn't matter. So I believe in what nature has said about it.
Yeah. Yeah, all the things that have been said in defense of nature. I was just thinking about I think at the end of the Xenofeminist Manifesto, they write, if nature is unjust, then change nature. It's kind of uncomfortable for me to watch that. It's been, I think like almost 6 years now between when I actually interviewed him and at the time I had to perform submissiveness as a strategy to even allow the interview to take place. So the constant laughter and kind of as a way to combat nervousness and just a deep sense of disrespect that I was getting from him yeah, just it's it's hard for me to watch myself perform that way. It's not who I am normally. But yeah, at the time, it was a tactical approach that I felt was necessary to do the project. So the text you're seeing now in this video is from one of the many emails I got nearly daily over the course of the project from Ruch's community members. This project ended up taking on a lot of forms. Ruch was initially enthusiastic about my search and the project in general, likely because of the news media attention that it gave him. However, he and his community became increasingly frustrated over time that the media still had an overall negative view of Ruchvi despite my unedited 2-hour-long interview with him going online. His community began to harass me and additionally sent rape and death threats over email, social media, comment sections of news sites, and a massive and still ongoing comment thread on the Ruchvi forum, and additionally wrote threatening statements to collaborators, employers, friends, peers, and colleagues in an attempt to discredit what I was doing. I'm talking about this issue not to play up a narrative of victimization around myself. I certainly recognize myself as an artist with agency who started this whole project. But as a performer and a person who had seen real impact on the space in World of Warcraft as a result of what I was doing as the council, I naively applied some of the same logic and strategies to this project without realizing the primary difference in my position in these two spaces. In WoW, I was recognizable as a long-term, high-level member of the community with high-level gear, only obtained through years of commitment to the game. Clearly a participant in that space and not an outsider. By virtue of just being myself, a woman, a self-identified feminist, a person with a job, I was always going to be an outsider in the manosphere. So we can continue to, this is, I would say, a very characteristic, how to say, this is kind of pretty par for the course in terms of the emails that I was getting during the height of the project. So we'll let it play out. Ouch. Womp womp. For those of you not familiar with the acronym WNB, it means, in this manosphere context, would not bang. So, if you try to follow me on social media post this project, you may notice that all of my accounts are private. The harassment I experienced really changed the way that I related to the internet. I had a historically pretty, I'd say, utopian view of the internet as a kind of weird kid growing up in the middle of nowhere, rural America. The internet was really important to me in helping me see possibilities for myself outside of the context that I grew up in, and also the possibilities for this democratic discourse online coming from various contexts really meant a lot to me. But after being constantly notified about members of the manosphere trying to engage me in various and often disturbing ways, I decided to become much more intentional about who I spend my energy on online and how I kind of, who I surround myself with online. So you don't have to let in every harasser, as it turns out. So this project is always a little challenging to talk about because it's taken on so many forms and existed in a lot of different contexts. There have been physical gallery installations and digitally mediated intimate storytelling performances where I kind of outline the meandering nature of the project and my different interactions with Ruch. In recent years, this is the first time I'm talking about this project in a talk, so it's kind of new for this set up, but I've been working, I just started working with research material related to that project again. I collaborate with a musician named Jesse Stiles on basically a band in U+1 F440, which is really hard to Google, and if you try it, you'll find out why. But we create live electronic music and visuals using custom code and interactive electronics. Using existing politically charged text as source material, we train machine learning algorithms on these politically charged texts to produce poetic and dreamlike computer-generated lyrics for glitchy electronic pop music. In our process, we take a source text. So in the case of our song Alpha Game, which I'm going to play for you in a moment, in this case, the 300-plus posts on the RushB forum thread about my Bang project, and we train text-generating neural networks on it. These networks create their own new texts, pulling from the patterns and vernacular of the original source, and then we redact them into poems and manipulate them even further to produce experimental songs. So in this image, you can see a fragment, one post from the RushB forum thread, Rush interviewed by a feminist, and behind it you can see our lyrics, Alpha Game. Making this song for me now was an important part of returning to that experience and processing the amount of negative energy that was coming my way from the manosphere years ago. So I'm going to play this song, Alpha Game, for you now. It's going to be accompanied by the backing visuals that are projected when we play the song live. So you can just imagine me up here, but with like MIDI controllers and a synth and a microphone, like yell singing, and Jesse like jumping up and down with a bunch of electronics, and this video that you're about to see playing behind us. So with that, this is Alpha Game. So you may be wondering, like, what the hell is the source of that video? So this video is actually a pretty manipulated version of the cell phone footage that was taken when Rushvi had organized this series of a kind of talk tour of these mini conferences that were highly publicized. I believe one happened here. But so he was in Toronto, Canada, and he was at a bar, and he was picking up this woman, but her and her friends all knew who he was and had alerted the staff at the bar and all of the patrons there. Everybody who was there ended up forcing him to leave, dumped a bunch of beers on him, and led this march down the street screaming at him. So some of the sounds in the beginning and the end, and incorporated a little bit in the song, are also from the crowd and the women screaming at Rushvi and chasing him down. So happy to continue to put that material out into the world. So at this point, you may have noticed that I'm interested in a wide range of forms for my work to take on. I don't prioritize the traditional gallery or museum context as the best or most interesting place to be making art or distributing art. So I'll make work in game environments and play music in clubs and write for journals and news sites and all sorts of stuff. So the Banged project, rewinding back to that a little bit, also had several written manifestations, including kind of self-published books, and as well as essays in academic journals and news sites and so on. And the research that I did and projects that I made under the Banged umbrella also led directly into the research for the next project I'll talk about, The Game. So toward the end of the Bang project, something that I really thought was getting in the way of the work was my performance role. The project became very much about my personal experience kind of navigating through the manosphere and the kind of pickup artist community. So as you'll see, despite my experience, I haven't abandoned the field. I'm just, with the game, I was trying to put myself out of the spotlight and make the project less about my personal mediation of an intervention into the space and more about creating an embodied way for people to digest experiences from and the ideologies of these manosphere seduction communities. There's so much information, so many micro-communities, and a lot of inaccessible lingo in this field. And a lot of the tactical information is very painful to process, especially if you're a woman and have had experiences with sexual assault. And so with all of the experience I started to have mapping the field, as an artist researcher, I felt like I was in a position to be able to filter all of this information into a game scenario so that one might walk away ideally being able to make sense of it without having to spend as much time as I had in it, and potentially developing strategies for respond to it. So the game. I just want to give you a kind of warning about this project. The game includes text-based descriptions of sexual assault and non-consensual behavior. I will show one video that is particularly difficult, and I'll give another warning before I show that. But if you're sensitive to or have experienced trauma around this territory, I won't be offended at all if you have to leave. So, after the Bang project, followers of other seduction gurus reached out to me to tell me that Rush's variety of pickup art was much more extreme and much more misogynistic than other types that they argued were more focused on teaching men confidence and self-improvement and meant to help level the dating playing field, or so they said to me. I thought that this was a valid point, so I decided to take a deeper look into the variety of pickup artist gurus, or seduction coaches, as they also call themselves, and identify the differences between the types of pickup art that they're teaching, and then make a video game about these different approaches. The project's title, The Game, is a play on the best-selling book by Neil Strauss, The Game. which was the first mainstream and best-selling primer into this world, which really originated as a couple of guys with a Web 1.0 community forum online, sharing tips with each other on how to pick up women, but ultimately transformed into this lucrative seduction coaching lifestyle for some of the participants. So I sort of made a playable version of the game, but looking at the entire field as it exists today and also before the game, not just the pickup artists represented in that book. In the game, I present the different seduction techniques of famous pickup artists and allow these pickup artists to speak for themselves through their own work and put players into the position of interacting with them in the most common location for pickup art, the bar. Players, regardless of personal gender identity or sexuality, are put into the position of experiencing a common scenario that femme-presenting people experience, having their personal space invaded when it's unwelcomed by men who feel entitled to it. The first pickup artist you encounter in the game is Julian, who is based on research material from infamous pickup artist Julien Blanc, and a lot of it is taken from his first major multi-DVD training program called Pimp. And this is what the Pimp program costs now at a reduced price. All of the dialogue by the pickup artists in the game is constructed from actual word-for-word advice written by these pickup artists in their books, from their websites, from footage of them hosting these conferences that often cost $2,000 to $3,000 a head, their video coaching programs, total value there, and also situations from their own hidden camera footage that they sell to their devoted followers. A lot of these coaching materials are prohibitively expensive and not available in full online. I hypothesize that this is not only obviously to make a bunch of money off of them, but also to keep people who aren't looking to genuinely learn from them from finding out about their disturbing contents. But I got some grants, so I bought like all of them. So I'm going to show an excerpt from one of Julien Blanc's videos from Pimp. It includes one of these, what they call in-field hidden camera videos, where they record women without their consent. And I just want to give you a warning. You will see, if you stay to watch it, non-consensual behavior, someone being moved around, even though they're asking very clearly to not be moved around. It's not sexually explicit, it's not graphic, but it is disturbing, and it's definitely non-consensual. So I just want to give a moment for anybody who doesn't want to see this clip. It is 3 minutes long, and it is from Pimp, and it is not online. Let me give a second for that to sink in. Okay, this is Julien Blanc from Pimp.
So when I'm like, you know what, it's after party, let's go, I'm gonna throw in the word now. Okay, like, you know what, after party, now. Boom, and I will order and command now. Now, okay? Listen, you don't have to if you don't want to, but let's go now. Okay, we get along, right? After party, now. Adventure, now. Let's go, now. This second, now. This second, now. Okay, I'm gonna hammer that shit in. I'll also do like, you know what, after party, because otherwise I have to go. AKA, it has to happen now. Okay, so keep that in mind. Take the responsibility off of the girl and create a sense of urgency.
Kiss me goodbye, a real kiss.
No, we're
very
done.
nice guys. I'll never see you again.
We're just assholes.
Don't give a shit.
But Julien is a Frenchman.
Hey, we have so much in common.
Apologies.
What do we have in common? What do you
Pleasure to
mean?
meet you.
The connection. We're just like,
Ridiculous.
we're too similar.
Erica,
She won't see.
no.
I'll hide it. I have massive shoulders. She won't see.
Get out of town.
That's what she said. Okay, real fast, real fast.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
A real kiss, not shake.
You're crazy.
She's gone. Okay, we already kissed. It's too late. Give her a real kiss.
You're crazy.
Redemption. It's like a video game. Redemption. Are you gonna cheat on a shitty kiss?
No.
That's a good point.
Am I gonna cheat on a shitty
You already
Yes.
cheated. You already cheated.
even mean?
You cheated on a fiance on a shitty kiss. Is that really what you want?
Where
2 minutes.
Where
Come
did
here.
you guys come
Wait.
from?
Can I just hug you goodbye? I'll hug you goodbye.
You can give me a hug.
Goodbye.
Okay?
2 minutes. Come with me and kiss me. 2 minutes.
No, 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 no.
2 minutes. 2
no,
minutes.
stop.
2 minutes. Okay, kiss me. See.
No, 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 no.
She can't see. My friend's talking to her.
So this pretty much covers, like aligning the emotional side of her brain with the logical side of her brain.
Okay. So, I'm not showing that video to shock you. I would say it's, I've seen certainly much worse content from these coaching programs that I use to make my game. But I will say, this interaction from the PIMP video coaching program is presented and framed as a successful pickup action. It's encouraged. Men should do that according to these programs. It's suggested as a behavior that other men should engage in, and other men are paying hundreds of dollars for that advice. So I showed that video to illustrate that this moment presented in Julian's hidden camera footage is represented in the game. As a player, if you continue to engage with him to the point that you end up outside of the bar and are invited to leave the venue with him, even when you push back, you may be physically moved around and touched sexually without your consent. This is not me inventing what Julian is like in any way, but presenting him and his behaviors in the way that he's presented them himself and has suggested them as a template for his many, many, many committed fans to follow. After each interaction in the game, you're prompted with a series of options. Generally, the options include a total range from enthusiastically going along with it, to being snarky, to being polite, to resorting to being aggressive in your rejection. Each option results in a different outcome, illustrating how the pickup artist has described different ways of handling the ways that women respond to them. Each pickup artist handles rejection and women's attitudes toward them differently. For example, and this is a little bit of a spoiler alert if you end up playing the game, but if you play through, you'll notice that Julian will persist until you physically push him away or yell at him, whereas even the slightest hint of confidence or attitude will signal to Luke that you aren't submissive and therefore aren't worth his time, so he'll disengage immediately. By the way, Rushvi is called Luke in this game because he was caught by talk show hosts in Russia using a pseudonym name of Luke. So I kind of honor that in my game. As a player and as the target of pickup artist attention, you can make a broad range of decisions in the game, from opting to actually hooking up with different pickup artists in multiple locations to attempting to get away from them immediately, which the latter is kind of the first way most people tend to play the game. But in constructing this game, I didn't want to necessarily make the only way to play it the escape way, and I hope that players, if they aren't triggered by it, do experiment with seeing what a successful conquest looks like from the perspective of each of the pickup artists. The game never slut-shames the player by any means, and also allows you to turn the tables and pursue the pickup artist yourself and see how that goes. I've tried to depict not only the breadth of the field of pickup art in the game, but also the extent to which each of these gurus copy their moves from each other, highlighting how community-based and internet-driven the men's seduction field is. So here, Neil Strauss is, suggesting that the TV isn't working. You better come see my computer in the bedroom. And then Julian has a Vampire Diaries video you should see. And this might date Eric a little bit, but he wants to show you something in Google Earth. So as you play through more and more exchanges, it becomes clear that each pickup artist is really just building off of one another's materials and tweaking them and rebranding them. The game was made from hundreds of handmade and digitally manipulated cyanotypes. Some were made on ceramic and linoleum tiles like these, and others were made on watercolor paper. And this is what it looks like when they're combined and altered digitally and put into Python. I really wanted this game to have a feel to it that was consistent with the emotional and psychological weight of the experience. And that's why I brought back some of my background in let's say, more traditional art processes. Rather than employing the all-digital sprite-based RPG look, I had prototyped the project in. Also, the band Shoo Shoo composed the soundtrack to the game, so it has what I think is a pretty dark and intense musical score, which also enhances the tense, claustrophobic nature of the interactions and environments. I'm gonna play you like 5 seconds. This is from when something bad is happening. So it's not always like that, but you know, if you hear that music, then you might want to be like, escape. Okay. So the game was originally shown mostly in art exhibition and festival contexts, and now it's available for download on personal computers everywhere, PC, Mac, and Linux, at thegamethegame.org. I think as an experience, it was always designed to be something that you could play, that you should play in the privacy of your own home. People play it very differently in a gallery setting where they're kind of on display and pressured to make the right decisions. It's really meant to be replayed at home to get really an understanding of the difference between the types of pickup artists and the practices and their tactics. So the best way to play it is on your own laptop at home. I also want to say, despite the heavy way that I've described the work, you know, it's important to me that it's also humorous. There's some relief in there. For example, Julian's obsessed with Twilight and the Vampire Diaries series, and a great deal of his pickup lines are vampire-oriented. Roosh has this odd story he tells about living off the land and growing only butter lettuce and organic watermelons. You know, it's important to me that the game doesn't just highlight the danger embedded in these scenarios, which it definitely does, but also the absurdity of some of the tactics as well. The game gives you an opportunity to slow down these practices and examine them closely, something you really can't do when you're experiencing them in real time in an actual bar. And a lot of these tactics are specifically designed to stand out to people who are inebriated. And that becomes really clear with the kind of absurdity of some of the lines and so on. For me, it's important that when I get to talk about this work, that I frame the field in this heavy way, because sometimes this field gets dismissed as a joke or not real. And when I talk about the field, the men's seduction field and the work, I want to share with you some of the gravity of the situation by seeing it in practice, seeing also the primary materials that have been borrowed from to make this project. I'm interested in exploring the complexity of this field and not flattening it or oversimplifying it the way that I think mainstream media often does, and instead mapping this field out and making the complexities more accessible. By making these pickup artist practice an embodied experience and putting players into the position of making decisions and walking through interactions, I think that there are insights to be gained that wouldn't be gained in any other media. I think, what do I want to say about this? Yeah, there's something important about being put into the position of experiencing the practices rather than like reading about them from a distance. And the term tactical embodiment is the way that I've sort of started to think about this. So for me, tactical embodiment is a strategy of positioning players into an embodied experience that, in this case, may give them knowledge about the male seduction field by being moved through it in a way that will just sink in differently than reading about it in the abstract or watching videos about it. I think that understanding these practices and why they're so appealing and perceived as a necessary antidote to so many men is instrumental in trying to dismantle them. There's a lucrative industry devoted to providing men with answers on how to get women to interact with them. Unfortunately, many of these pickup artists have a monopoly on providing those answers. These practices often disregard consent, as you've seen, and women's agency, and also rely on very outdated ideas about biological determinism, making assumptions about what women are naturally like that undermine the wide spectrum of ways that people present, live, and perform. And as an artist, I think there are many strategies to share the research you're doing to produce your work. Recently, I was able to share some of the primary research materials that were used to make the game via publishing in mainstream journalism. So this summer, I was commissioned by IBM Center for the Future of Journalism, which is really interesting, and you should check them out. I was commissioned by them to collaborate with editors at the publication The Nation to produce a piece of experimental, artistic, investigative journalism focused on the books, websites, and video coaching materials that I used to make the game. As a result, I created a series of data visualizations showing the interrelationships between figures in the male seduction community, as well as a new game called The Game. Since it's a text interactive narrative game, walking users through the history, practices, and terminology of the communities featured in the game. So it's a little meta. But I think as an artist that it's important to think about how you make your research visible to different audiences. This was an opportunity for me to be more explicit and analytical about the field, something that wouldn't have made sense jammed into the experience of the game itself. So, as much as I would like to, in the game itself, have a glossary or, citations, it just didn't feel right for the experience. So this is another way that I got to try to do that. A lot of people, when I give talks about this work, like to ask me, hey, Angela, have any of the pickup artists in the game sued you? Is it legal to use the pickup artists' real names, likenesses, and the things they've said in their books and videos and make a video game about it? As of November, I have a new answer for you. So after the piece I just talked about was published in The Nation, I received a cease and desist letter from Real Social Dynamics Incorporated, the pickup art company that Julian Blanc works for, and Owen Cook, who's also featured in the game, founded, and their lawyer. The Nation also received this letter. Lawyers for Julian and Owen demanded that I immediately cease and desist any further use of Owen Cook and Julian Blanc's likenesses without their permission and remove their likenesses from the game. They also demanded an accounting of all of my uses of their likenesses in any forms and requested confirmation after I'd removed all of these likenesses. They said that failure to remove their likenesses would result in them pursuing emergency injunctive relief to prevent further harm to their clients. So maybe you're thinking to yourself, aren't these public figures? Doesn't that leave them open to critique? Doesn't it seem like they're trying to silence dissent against them from women who are directly affected by their practices? So naturally, I was very scared when I received that letter. I still wonder if I will spend years back and forth combating a frustrating lawsuit that will keep me from producing any art. But I'm pleased and relieved to tell you that I'm fortunate that when I contacted the Electronic Frontier Foundation about the case, they offered me free legal representation as an artist being silenced from my critique about the very real practices of professional pickup artists. Thank you, EFF. If you don't know about EFF, you should know about EFF. They've probably helped a lot of the activist artists you know and love, like the Yes Men. They took the stance that, from this letter, that my work is protected by the First Amendment, and also cited several examples of cases that were similar that created legal precedents supporting work like mine. People like Owen Cook and Julian Blanc working for, larger companies like Real Social Dynamics often sue people to scare them from speaking out or to stifle public criticism about their exploitative and aggressive behavior. Real Social Dynamics is currently reframing itself as a lifestyle coaching company and has recently erased a lot of the evidence of their long history as a pickup art company or a seduction coaching company from their websites. And this cease and desist letter is part of an elaborate rebranding campaign that they're doing to clean up their image. Fortunately, I have all of their materials backed up, and there's this thing called archive.org that has taken many snapshots of their websites over time. So, yeah. I hope that it's helpful to know that if you're doing this kind of activism-oriented work and you're speaking to power in this sort of way, as an individual artist, that there are people out there who will help you if you reach out, and that people like Julian and Owen are banking on, an artist being intimidated or scared and just taking down their website. So it is still scary, though. So both Julian and Owen, Owen also goes by the alias Tyler Durden. Y'all know that reference? Yeah, an alias from Fight Club. They're both still in my game, still on the Nation's website. And I intend to continue to hold them accountable through my work, no matter how much they work toward erasing their histories as professional pickup artists, suggesting sexual assault as a pickup strategy. All right, palette cleansing. Moving far, far away from pickup artists and the manosphere, I'm gonna talk about my most recent project, or what I'm working on right now. This project that I'm going to talk about may seem like a departure, but I see it very much connected to my broader practice. After several years of embedding myself in some of the darkest corners of contemporary digitally mediated humanity, at great expense at times to my emotional, physical health and safety, frankly, I wanted to make something celebratory and work with people that I admired and get back to some other elements of my practice that I hadn't spent time with in a long time. Experimental theater, performance, drag, and reality TV. Going back in time to 2013, I have this whole other body of work called Millionaire Worthy, which focused on me doing really bad impersonations of Millionaire Matchmaker host Patti Stanger, through which I presented data analysis of how dating, courtship, class, gender, and sexuality are presented on that extremely heteronormative, highly classist, and deeply misogynistic show. And I do this under the guise of this kind of bizarre self-help public access TV show and a one-woman play. And this video is kind of the primer video to a whole bunch of other work I did impersonating Patti Stanger. So I'm gonna just briefly show you like a couple of minutes from Millionaire Worthy, a primer, and then I'll finish up by talking about Workhorse Queen, my new project. Hello, ladies.
Do you want to be successful? Of course you do. Well, I'm going to try to change your mind. This is the richest man in the world according to Forbes' top billionaire list of 2013. There are only 48 women in the top 400 richest people in the United States list.
Now I gotta see you walk.
So, the odds of us ladies making $1 million on our own, quite unlikely. So I'm here today to teach you the valuable lessons that I learned recently. I learned the keys to attracting a rich, successful man. After watching 72 episodes or 6 whole seasons of Bravo Television's Millionaire Matchmaker, I've created a formula to make sure that you get the true happiness and success that you deserve. This is Patti Stanger, the CEO of the Millionaires Club. She's responsible for providing these men with women who fit their extremely specific criteria. Now remember, ladies, when you're that wealthy, you're allowed to be extremely particular about everything, and that includes women. Here's just a small sampling of what some of these highly deserving millionaires are looking for.
I have very high standards.
I don't date a particular age if she's 23 or whatever. It doesn't matter.
At 58, it's hard to date people that are typically older, but do I look 58? I like more petite women.
I would say that I like petite girls.
I'm looking for someone I can have a kid with.
I want a woman that I can almost nearly worship.
Basically, I'm looking for a female version of me.
I like Marilyn Monroe, Adriana Lima, Nicole from the Pussycat Dolls, but with the personality of somebody like Conan O'Brien.
I say for my ideal, it's a 25 to 28.
I like short girls.
No divorces, no diseases, no kids.
I want hot blonde.
Nurturing, take care of their man.
Between 5'2" and 5'8".
Very open and energetic, not too energetic, where she's da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Someone with a good family.
I love femininity.
Petite, slender, size 0 to 3 or 4.
Brunette, long dark hair, green, blue eyes, a nice smile.
I'm attracted to the exotic sort of ethnic type.
I like exotic. My perfect woman basically is someone exotic looking, brunette, spontaneous. That's going to definitely keep the penis up. I want a woman who enjoys cooking.
Women are here to be great wives.
I'd really like to replace my Thai masseuse with a wife.
I believe in the traditional roles where a man is a man and a woman is a woman, and while I'm watching football, the woman should be in the kitchen cooking something for me. I want a nice girl who I like. 34C 2333.
So now that you've seen a sampling of what some of these highly successful men are looking for, are you worthy of a millionaire? Well, I've done your homework for you. By taking the descriptions of what male millionaires are looking for on the show and turning it into analytical data, I'm able to give you a concrete breakdown of exactly what you need to be in order to snag one. I've got to ask you, do you have what it takes to be worthy of a millionaire? These men are looking for a woman who is or has the following 100 qualities. These are in order from least requested being 100 and most requested being number 1. Of course, there are more than 300 things that men have asked for over the course of 6 seasons of Millionaire Matchmaker. These are just the most occurring. We're looking for a woman who is or has number 100, classy, number 99, ready to commit, deep, undersized 3, voluptuous, respectful toward me, tiny, young, worldly, willing to move for love, wild, number 89, the total package, striking looks, spontaneous.
I am going to fast
spiritual,
forward a little because
someone
I
I
really
can
do
brag
go
about.
through all 100.
Sloane from Montreux, Hudson, like Jennifer Aniston, with substance, green eyes, gorgeous body, amazing eyes. Number 53, 25 to 28 years old, a follower type. Number 51 is 21 to 28 years old, witty, Latino, intellectual, Jewish, exactly like me, dark skin. Number 37 is Christian, housewife type, model look, model body, and model height, mid-30s. Number 26 likes to travel. Number 17 is educated, easy to talk to, blonde, will make a good mother, smart, funny, strong family values. Number 10, here we get into the top 10, folks. Number 10, big tits, great butt. Number 8, fun. Number 7, intelligent. Number 6, short. Number 5, hot. Number 4, capable and interested in having children. Number 3, petite. Number 2, beautiful. And coming in at number 1, we have brunette. So I'm sure you're probably all thinking, I possess all 100 of those qualities. Why don't I have a millionaire already? What am I doing wrong? Well, you're going to have to wait and buy my next video for $39.99 to find out. So until next time, stay tuned.
Yeah, I never made that next video. I just made like kind of a bad public access TV series. But anyway, back to Workhorse Queen, the project I'm working on now. So some of you may be familiar with a show called RuPaul's Drag Race. So the reality TV show RuPaul's Drag Race has created an international platform and entertainment career template for over 100 drag queens in its 11 and almost 12 seasons on television. In my new project, I wanted to explore the impact of that TV show on local drag communities, as well as follow the drag queens who've ended up on the show, but maybe didn't do that well, and consequently develop smaller fan bases and audiences and have to work a lot harder. But they're still aspiring to use the TV show as a platform to pursue a full-time career in the mainstream entertainment industry. So Workhorse Queen is an experimental documentary film I've been working on about Rochester-based drag queen, Mrs. Kasha Davis. Some love for Mrs. Kasha Davis, that's nice. I'll tell her later. Mrs. Kasha Davis, her life, career, and recent shift toward international visibility after competing and unfortunately going home early on season 7 of RuPaul's Drag Race. If you're not familiar, rather than performing as a kind of model-esque pop icon like so many of the drag queens who've been showcased on that TV show, Ed Popel's drag persona, Mrs. Kasha Davis, is situated at home. It's a very specific character. A political statement critiquing the confines of what women are supposed to be and do by playing this 1960s-era housewife who's trying to liberate herself by performing at night, a character that's also an homage to his own mother. So in addition to his unusually specific domestic character, I find Ed's commitment to his local community, his unique personal history, the intense behind-the-scenes process of maintaining this performance practice, his unexpected 5 seconds of reality TV fame, and his decision to quit his day job as a call center sort of telemarketing manager to perform as Mrs. Kasha Davis full-time in his late 40s. I think all of these things offer a unique and unconventional perspective on post-reality TV drag culture in this contemporary moment. I'm also interested in the broader impact that the show has had on the subversive subculture of drag. Through the project, I've been able to film Mrs. Kasha Davis on tours across the globe as far as Australia, as well as the world's largest gathering of drag queens, RuPaul's Drag Con. The experimental film features interviews with Ed, his husband, drag fans around the world, club promoters, reality TV stars, many drag queens, members of his Rochester queer community, and lots more. It presents a behind-the-scenes look at all of the different types of shows that he's doing, internationally and locally. It also looks into the future, as I've been helping Ed stage these kind of filmed moments from this hypothetical future children's TV show that Mrs. Kasha Davis dreams of being able to host. So in my life and practice, I have had a commitment to examining the cultural byproducts of media, entertainment, and technology in an effort to rethink them and create hopefully future cultural objects that are more inclusive of the wide range of ways that we can choose as humans to perform, present, live, and love. And I hope to continue to tell what I think are complex, underrepresented, and unconventional stories about the media we consume from unusual perspectives using a wide range of forms and distribution strategies. And so with that, I'm going to end by showing you the first trailer for Workhorse Queen, this work in progress, currently in post-production, and then we will move to a Q&A in another room, the screening room, I think. So 2 minutes of Workhorse Queen, which should be going around and finished this fall.
Oh, hello. All right, I know what's going on. Isn't that wonderful? Hey, does everyone know there's a documentary being filmed here tonight? You want to come on up here, darling?
Yes!
Give it up, everybody!
Please, this is not like my death video that we're playing at the funeral. This is just the beginning.
Mrs. Kasha Davis is a culmination of my mom, my grandmother, the ladies of the church back in the day when I was growing up.
I have to fix this because this may make me crazy. Why do they have these?
The decision to really start out with the housewife was, number one, is that I thought first I would create this character of similar to who I was. I was a person who was working in a career that I didn't want to be in, and that I was longing to do something else. And I celebrated the fact that she got her chance at night to slip out and go out and do something, you know, either a little risque or just get that, you know, fire out of going up on stage and performing. Don't you hate it when some people jump in the elevator?
Oh my God.
It's my coming out story. I talk about my battle with addiction. I talk about the battle with my father. I talk about my marriage to my ex-wife. And of course, the joy of my husband and Mr. Davis and the children. Rushing back home, came home, cleaned, napped, walked Max, cleaned, napped. Mr. Davis came home, ate food, napped, woke up, here we are. And they wouldn't let us into the hotel until 4 o'clock, so we're rushing. And I could see you, person, saying right now on the other side of this camera, well, you should have known better, you signed up for this.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the documentary about Mrs. Kasha Davis. I'm not Mrs. Kasha Davis. I'm so sorry, but I'm, yeah, that's about it. I'm really sorry. Give it up, ladies and gentlemen!
Thank you so much.